Team Gravity presents Fight Night.
Y'all ready for this?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Team Gravity Fight Night Tournament of Champions Grand Finals. We're going to be jumping into the amazing series that it will be Hydra versus aLive. Jack Attack, TVZ, man, couldn't be happier. How you feeling about this?
Oh god, I love mech. Oh man. Whew! That game where Flash played mech with like a billion turrets on Iron Fortress was like one of my favorite games of StarCraft all time. Like, I love the place that TVZ is in right now with the mech versus Zerg. And all the Zerg players just decided they hate me. It just happened. I had to be honest and real. I love it. I love the games. But I know that there is quite a bit of anti-mech sentiment coming from the Zerg lands. So I apologize in advance. But I have to be honest with you. I love it. I enjoy the hell out of it. I do.
Let the hatred flow through you as all the Zerg players channel it through.
Something. Mech play.
Something. Upgrade complete.
Yeah,
I knew the Family Guy reference.
You actually just killed me that joke. All right, we're good.
All right, but we are going to be jumping to the grand finals. For those who are wondering, again, there's going to be $100 difference between first place and second place for these grand finals, with first place receiving $150, second place receiving $50, and Hydra and aLive both going to be saving up their bank accounts for those Legacy of the Void keys, and they have to pre-order their barcode accounts for the future, so I know that those accounts are going to be very important to them, and winning this match is going to secure those accounts for them. So I'm interested to see how this is going to go. TVZ, game number 1. I think the players are ready, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Jack Attack, what is the first map for today?
The first map today is Coda LE. Coda LE. Fantastic map for all Terrans everywhere.
And this is, in my opinion, I've always thought about this map being like a pretty decent map if you're going to go into like a mech play. Right? Because there's so many different positions that you can siege up a lot of your units and just get unbelievable control over your opponent and where they can go and how they can move around the map. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and introduce the players and spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map on top of the red Zerg player representing team Root for Root. It's Root's Hydra.
And on the opposite side of the symmetrical map, we've got the blue Terran, aLive, who's not on EG any longer, but was once, and EG aLive, you know, throwing in some homage to his old team there. Very nice.
And
but as you were saying,
gone, I'll be still alive.
When every other team has no longer existed, when you've all moved on to StarCraft 3, I'll still be alive.
I mean, I hope so. I know that StarCraft 3 may be far away off, but I'm hoping that his lifespan is longer than what I presume to be, like, around 10 years.
I'm hoping that actually StarCraft 3 never comes out and they just keep StarCraft 2 and it just becomes this infinity game like League of Legends and Dota 2, where it's just like every year we get, you know, some big changes that mix it up a little bit and makes it a little fun, and we, you know, try it out that way. Would be very interesting. We are in this strange world in StarCraft right now. It's just sort of like, what happens after the last expansion comes out, you know?
Yeah, that will certainly be a very interesting experience to see how that ends up transitioning out to. But for now, we can just focus on the game at hand and enjoy it, because we still got a lot of time before we have to ask those kind of questions. CC first coming down for aLive, following it up with the barracks, and again, it's just like that kind of extra little bits of greedy play. If he was up against Hydra, who decided to go a little bit more aggressive, go for the spawning pool first. Could have sent some Zerglings across the map and actually gotten a cancel off on this command center, if not at least killing off the SCV and delaying it.
Yep. Building, and you know, CC first is something that happens a lot of times on the high ground against Zerg. A little bit more safe. You can wall in quickly. You can kind of protect it, move that worker around. But the low ground is just like the super duper greed, 100% all the way, all greeds ahead, all the you know, irons in the fire and everything like that. But you know, like you said, nothing crazy as far as aggressive options for Hydra at this moment in time. But he has a good scout off. He knows what's going on, so he'll be able to plan the rest of his early to mid game accordingly.
Yeah, it does have an early gas geyser, so we can go for either that early Zergling speed or maybe mix it up into some more cheesy play if he decides to do so. He has gotten the Overlord scout off and saw that it was a CC first, saw the barracks, hasn't seen the gas geyser, but I'm sure that he can kind of presume something like that going down at some point soon. Hydra, in the meanwhile, looks like he's just going to be starting out that Zergling speed. And as you were saying, everything progressing fairly normally. So I want to ask you the question that I love to ask on every map, because I always feel like it's a relevant question, Jack Attack. How do you feel about third expansions on this map, and how easy or difficult are they to defend? Because I feel like that's always usually a relevant question.
I really like for Terran on this map taking the third base that's sort of the in a row third base over in the 12 o'clock position, just because you can sort of wall off and you can keep your army kind of in between the second base and the third base, and you pretty much protect everything. It's not like a TVZ where you're going to have a lot of air threats early on, a TVT rather, where you have a lot of air threats early on or anything like that, so a lot of ground stuff in general. So it's kind of nice for that.
Just cast your curse going on right now, Jack Attack, as we say, oh, you know, not a lot of air threats going on, except when Hydra decides to go for an insanely fast Hive Tech, and probably, I think this is going to be a 2-base Spire play, which is something that some Zerg players do enjoy doing. It's really nice just because it gives you so much map control very, very early on. And from there, you just try and spiral out of control with your map control. You keep your opponent on a low medevac count. You keep them from dropping early on, so you really just don't have to worry about defending and taking too much damage. And then your mutals count, as long as you control well, builds up bigger and bigger and bigger until it's too much for the Terran player to handle. We'll see if that Hydra can actually make that work, though.
I love it. Spiraling out of control with your map control. Fantastic. And yeah, two-base Spire play, fairly common nowadays. It's a fairly strong, fairly nice thing to be happening. We do have the armory coming down. So, as always, we do have the potential for some Hellbats happening. If anything in this kind of state, maybe a Hellbat pressure, nothing too crazy like an all-in, but just in general, those Hellbats can get real crazy real fast if you aren't prepared. But Hydra going in at just the right time, you know, get a good scout out with that sacrificial Overlord, and we'll be able to deal with this, you know, fairly easily. He does get supply block, though, by that Overlord death.
Yeah, and he's going to really need everything he can muster up to deal with the big old Hellbat push. And of course, this is behind a 3CC build from aLive, so aLive is by no means, you know, all in on this push or doing anything of the sort. He's actually going to have a fantastic economy behind this, but Hellbat push, nonetheless, going to be very, very scary for Hydra to deal with, especially since right now he's sitting on only Zerglings, and the Spire is going to be finishing up. Mules will eventually be able to kill off Hellbats, but the Hellbats just kind of kill everything in the meanwhile while they're getting like lightly patted by the Mutalisks. So kind of important to deal with this earlier rather than later.
Yep, and nice defense there. aLive sort of like balked there. He was sort of like, I don't really know if I'm gonna go in. I wait for 2 more Hellbats and then I'll kind of go in. Wait, there's too much defense. Not really getting too much done with this Hellbat push, unfortunately, whether it you know, is due to a little bit of that indecision or what have you, but Hydra's going to be pretty happy with that defense, is in the supply league, and is starting to hunt down those units with the Mutalisk count already up to 7.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at how careful aLive was about moving in, because, you know, I felt like he should have known, just based on how late that third expansion was, like, wait a second, my opponent's probably going for some sort of 2-base Spire play or some sort of 2-base Mules play. Someone at aLive's caliber should probably be able to recognize something like that, I would think. Maybe there's some other build he was a little bit wary of that wanted to be careful, wasn't just going to walk into like some crazy amount of banelings or something like that. But yeah, the Mules come out, they force out a lot of missile turrets, and I feel like Hydra has that map control dominance that he kind of wanted.
This is really interesting. So a bunch of Lings had come around and stopped the third base of the 12 o'clock position, and aLive has lifted off and decided, no, I'm going to take this forward position instead. We were playing Bio this game around, as you can see by the upgrades coming in, and Ling Bane Muta. So pretty classic style of a TVZ. Also, TVZ is just one of those great matchups that has so many different styles about it, and they're all so interesting and fun and fantastic. This particular one, really mechanically heavy. You're going to get the player with the super strong mechanic coming out on top most of the time. We're going to be looking at those Widow Mine hits to see if they're connecting with the Baneling, those Baneling hits to see if they're connecting with the Marines, and all that positioning is happening at a near constant rate.
Yeah, and not even just the things that are going to be happening in the midst of the actual engagement, but things that are mechanically intense, like creep spread, which is unbelievably sick, by the way, right now from Hydra. He's doing a fantastic job, and in a sense, with aLive expanding out to this forward third expansion, he's kind of expanding out toward the creep and going to make it a little bit more difficult for those defenses. But a lot of Zerglings trying to knock down this bunker, and he's getting a lot of damage done. It's an empty bunker, and now the SCVs are going to be under attack by the Mutalisks. It's a really wonky, weirdish base trade situation, but Centrifugal Hooks is not finished up. That means that these Marines should be able to kite these Banelings.
Yeah, we're in this sort of weird... Oh my god, that's a lot of Banelings, though. I don't know how long you can kite that, but it looks like a really nice arc coming out. Most of these Banelings are down. Excellent job.
Baneling that's going to be killed off.
Oh no, that's a really important structure, and it was in a really vulnerable location over here. Lots of workers falling down on both sides of the map. It looks like over here, mostly Mutalisks left here. One turret to defend, but many Marines. They've got Stim. Hydra has been thwarted for the most part, but his opponent has taken out... Oh, not the Spire! Oh my god, such an important... Two really important tech structures right in a row getting killed off here.
Only Queens and Zerglings can be made to try and deal with this drop harassment and try and deal with this defense. He's restarting the Spire, he's restarting the Baneling nest, and yeah, he has a couple of Mutalisks that can try and pick off some of these medevacs, but I mean, the Zerglings trying to move into this awkward location, this super duper well-defended place. It's just such cost-effective trades over here from aLive.
Yeah, the cost efficiency that just happened in that little corner of the map was absolutely insane. A handful of Marines just like killing countless Zerglings and Mutalisks. We have the reinforcement coming over here to protect the rest of these medevacs. Keeping your medevacs alive, very important part of this matchup.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that Hydra is going to really start to struggle. He's making some more Banelings, finally has those, but I want to note, again, Centrifugal Hooks got canceled at about 90-some%, but almost gets some great Baneling hits off. aLive managed to back up at the absolute last second, and he is going to be able to do some really nice damage over here as he once again moves into this little corner, and he's going to be able to lift up, and guess what? There's so many medevacs still alive right now, and there's only 4 Mutalisks. He can just actually run away with these medevacs. It's not going to be very easy for those Mutalisks to kill off these medevacs in time.
Oh, I love the juke. He pulls away in the other direction with 2 of them to try to get the mutas off, and it succeeds, but unfortunately to no end. He does save 2 medevacs for that process. In the meantime, though, we got a little group of Marines coming over to the left side. He's going to deal with this 4th base. It is 3 base versus 4. That 4th base economy, very important for the Zerg to be able to get ahead, who is already supply behind significantly in supply here. Losing more economy is going to make it even more difficult, building 10 drones to try and catch up.
Yeah, and these Marines also trading once again cost efficiently against those Zerglings in a nice little choke of that mineral line. And aLive is just looking to be further and further ahead when you have a Terran player that's finishing up 2-2, that is sitting up in supply, has more units, has a decent number of just everything that they really need, and the Zerg player sitting on 9 Mutalisks, 4 Banelings, low drone count,
1-1 and no 2-2 on the way at all.
Oh. things are looking pretty dire right now for Hydra.
Absolutely.
But still got 4 bases.
We're alive. Yep.
Has kept
keeping
that fourth base
base
alive.
It's really important.
For how much longer though? For how
Yeah,
much
this
longer?
is you know, aLive knows as well the critical nature of this fourth base here, and he is making his push directly towards it. It also is the place with less creep spread, so he's able to come through, get really close without having to go on creep for too long to be able to try and make an engagement. The army is here, lots of banelings ready. He's got to position this out just right.
Ooh. Hydra with a nice circling run by. Oh. At the same time, he's charging in with these Banelings and Zerglings, and the Banelings, they have centrifugal hooks, but aLive just moves back a little bit too far, and Hydra kills off a lot of the Medivacs, but is unable to kill off a majority of the Marines. He might be able to clean this push up with a wave number 2, but he is engaging the Marines, the 2-2 Marines, with just this pure Mutalisk, and I don't know if this is going to work out too well for him.
Oh, absolutely not. Even Mutalisk, as they're being hatched, taken off right out of the hatchery, and I think he's going to clean this up, but the cost is going to be very severe.
Yeah, ends up losing so many of those Mutalisks. The Mutalisks are probably the one thing that he probably had available to try and put on some more of that counter harassment beyond just that simple Zergling run by that I think aLive is going to be much more prepared for now, as he does have units streaming across the map and should be able to intercept a lot of those Zerglings. But fourth expansion is still alive, Jack Attack. The hope and the dream for Hydra is still alive.
Yeah, and you know, and as important as it is, the problem right now is that Hydra is sitting on 56 drones. That is for you know, perspective, 66 drones is a 3-base economy. In an ideal situation, he'd have even more of that if you know, hope to get on this 4-base economy for a little bit of time. We are 20 minutes into the game, and the problem is that Hydra just doesn't have time to build drones because he's clinging on to dear life, pumping out as much units as he can to try and get an advantage.
Yeah, and we end up seeing that aLive is once again just pushing out over and over and over again with a new force and never giving Hydra too much breathing room. Hydra had maybe 30 seconds to a minute of breathing room where there wasn't some push that he was dealing with, and now suddenly again, Hydra is trying to pick off whatever stray units he can, but there's just not that many. He has a decent Mutalisk Cloud, but it's so far out of position to defend this fourth expansion. This fourth, it seems like how in the world can he actually defend this? It's got to be going down, right?
I feel like the suspense, he's like, you know what, I'm going to kill it with 2 Marines because I want to just have that suspense. Will it explode? Oh, just barely. It almost gets saved, and then no. But I mean, he had to deal with those Mutalisks. He recognized, you know, he respected that threat. And at this point in time, I feel like aLive is just sort of saying, okay, how could I lose right now? It's sort of like, if I completely ignore these mutas, I might lose. So I need to make sure that I, you know, deal with them and get in position. And I mean, taking a 4th base at this point in time, securing it, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of extra turrets coming in here, and some nice pickoffs over here by the Mutalisk, taking off a clump of Marines, and some SCVs as well.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, even when he fights against a low number of Marines, he's fighting versus 3-2 Marines that are going to have +3 armor on the way. Did he cancel +3 armor? I know it was like 75% or 80% of the way through. Or at least I thought it was. Maybe not. Maybe that was weapons. But regardless, he has ridiculous weapon upgrades right now. Hydra's still sitting on 1-1, and this is really starting to look difficult for Hydra to come back from. He is making good use of the Mutalisk so far and buying himself time, but he still doesn't have a 4th. What's he buying time for?
Yeah, well, he's buying time to try and get his supply up. If he can take a really, really good engagement, get some good Baneling hits, he should be able to secure a 4th, but it is going to be very difficult. Nice angle coming from 2 different directions here, but a little bit mistimed. The Banelings come in a little bit on the late side. Oh, gets some really good Baneling hits off, but a lot of them hitting into the Marauders, but it's not enough. aLive wins the game.
aLive coming out 1-0 in this best of 7 series. This is just game number 1, so we still got plenty of other opportunities for Hydra to bring this back. But Hydra's 2-base Mutalisk style play, not really working out so well versus just the hyper macro style of aLive with a 3-CC build and just constant rallying across the map. I guess it really does, a lot of it come back down to that moment where aLive gets the drop or gets the push in, and the Mutals are on the other side of the map trying to make damage happen with the Zerglings, and it becomes a weird base trade situation. But aLive very, very clearly gets the better end of that with killing off the Baneling Nest before Centrifugal Hooks is done, killing off the Spire, killing off drones, trading it cost efficiently. Just everything going so well for aLive. I really felt like that entire game goes back to that one moment.
Yeah, it was so critical. We did get into that weird base trade where Hydra decided to be aggressive, and he spent so much time just attacking that bunker that he couldn't get through. And all of that time, aLive was dealing damage to his natural, and like you said, those two really critical building. He takes out the Baneling Nest before Centrifugal. Not only is he canceling an upgrade, he's stopping the tech of building Banelings, which are so critical for taking good engagements. And then on top of that, he takes the Spire out and an expansion. It's just a massive amount of damage to try and come back from. And still, you know, credit to Hydra for being like such a strong player, coming up to almost even supply on that last fight, trying to take it, you know, trying to make that one last stand happen.
Yeah, and he almost made it work. Those Baneling hits were honestly pretty gosh darn good at the end, but aLive just wasn't going to have any of it with his massive macro coming out behind it with an actual economy. Go figure, when you have an economy, you can make way more units than your opponent can actually deal with. But we'll see what the game will be like in game number 2, as I hope that aLive and Hydra are both like, go, 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 and I'm like matched up versus Hydra in the lobby. I'm like, I don't know, don't go. I don't want to fight Hydra.
You got it.
But if you guys want to see me cannon rush Hydra.
And Fear Dragon is starting the cannon rush now. Hydra knows there's no way that Fear Dragon can win, and has decided already he knows that Fear Dragon will cannon rush, and as a result has hard countered it immediately.
Hydra and Fear Dragon is still on the actual cast, so he can hear everything that Jack is saying, but he's still losing miserably. Still losing miserably. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and hop into the actual game number 2 as we go ahead and spawn up here in the top left-hand corner of the map. The purple Zerg player representing team Root for Root, down 0-1, still got a lot of opportunities to come back. It is Hydra.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of our screen, we've got the Red Terran aLive.
And what is this I spy?
That's it's kind of early SCV to be scouting, wouldn't you say, Fear Dragon?
You know, maybe he's gonna proxy a planetary fortress.
You know, as common as that is,
if I were gonna proxy the planetary fortress, that's where I would proxy it.
You know, Fear Dragon, maybe that might be why they're playing this game and not us. I think.
I know, right?
We try too many proxy planetaries. That's really the core. If we just stopped
that's
proxy
the real
planetary
problem.
People, we'd be fine. We'd be great. But
oh yeah,
we just can't resist the urge to proxy planetary rush. No, it's an 8/8 Reaper coming in, and Hydra has opened. Fortunately, pool first here.
Yeah, pool first is honestly a very conservative thing to do in any TVZ. So the fact that he's gone for this really just hints that Hydra is a little bit concerned about that aggression and concerned about a potential for proxies.
It shows a lot of respect that Hydra has for aLive, that he's willing to like throw down the spawning pool. Like, okay, you know, it's like I know that you can. I'm not gonna be super greedy because I know that you're going to keep me honest here.
Yeah, most definitely, especially when you're down 0-1 in a game. I think that's a very common thing that I've always found, where you have a big macro game, in the next game, one of the players cheese. It's not nearly as often that you end up seeing like a big long macro game, and game number 2 is just another immediate transition in a big long macro game. So I think it's a pretty good guess over here from Hydra that something like this might happen. And
we do have the Reaper coming in here. A big part of this is the timing that the Queens come out, but he has managed quite a few Zerglings. He's going to try to surround it, but Reapers, when they come out, they are dipped in butter, grease, and oil just to make sure that they're slippery enough to escape all of the Zerglings' attacks. And he's going to pick off some Zerglings here. And we do, of course, have the bunker coming down in the meantime. Really great micro here from both players.
Yeah, I'm really actually impressed with aLive, because normally, you know, the Reaper will move in, it'll kill off maybe a Zergling or two, or kill off maybe just a few of them, but it's the fact that he's been able to just kite around those Zerglings and actually take no damage, so his Reaper health was regenerating during the process of all of that. And Queen finally gets started up over here at the natural expansion, but these Reapers, they aren't these are not Wings of Liberty Reapers. They're not going to kill off this hatchery anytime soon. But it is going to give, that bunker's going to give them a great opportunity to just kind of move in and regenerate health very, very easily.
Really cool follow-up here. He's going right into the factory. He's using his gas for the factory. He's switched into Marines now, and he's using the Marines to basically do this 8-8 Reaper into a Marine bunker rush on the natural kind of a play. 10 Lings on the way. We've got 2 Queens as well. No Spine Crawlers available. So it's going to be kind of tough to deal with here.
Oh, he's going after the Overlord. He's moved his Marines down outside of the bunker. The Overlord's trying to look for a place to hide. That's actually the supply block Hydra. Oh my god, Hydra are going to be supply block, not going to be able to get out enough Zerglings to break this bunker, maybe? Well, no, I think
he's got a lot of Lings already. It's going to be difficult, but he should do it.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, the Reaper's just going to be moving in. Wow, gets the salvage off. Reaper's going to move into the main base, though, and the Zerglings are going to have to move back. They were trying to move across the map, but no dice. These Reaper's going to be able to kill off a drone or two.
Yeah, and even escape all the way to that side of the map. They are going to get finished off. But had they only been able to swim, they would have jumped up. They would have been fine. But unfortunately, Reapers cannot swim. Important StarCraft trivia. Maybe something, you know, good enough for useless facts, perhaps maybe even too useless, you know?
Useless.
Too useless for useless facts. That's when you know a fact is really useless. Reapers can't swim. Oh, well, okay.
The image would just be like a Reaper corpse sitting inside like the water pool because it got like knocked off after some explosion.
Yep. Yeah, find a map.
I want to note the Roach Warren going down for Hydra and the fact that he was forced to make so many Zerglings and is now just going to be up against Hellions for aLive. This is going to be, I can't even tell if this is going to be like some kind of counter reaction from Hydra that says like, okay, I just need to all in at this point, or if he actually just feels like against the Hellions, he's just going to need some sort of extra defensive mechanism. Like okay, 8 Roaches, I feel like this is going to be offensive.
Yeah, he's doing this off the back of 29 drones. He's on 2 base. He only has 1 gas, so the Roach count is going to be somewhat limited. The rest of that, I guess, is going to be going into Zerglings. But, you know, it could also be used to do some follow-up drones behind it or a 3rd base. But most likely, like you said, this is going to be 2 base all-in coming out from Root Hydra in reaction to that, you know, early damage.
And there's not going to be that many units around for aLive. I mean, even from his starport, he's making a Viking rather than a medevac or transitioning over to that barracks with the tech lab to get out a fast Banshee.
Oh, and aLive's got a bunch of supply really across the map here.
Oh, man.
He's got a almost full medevac here. Is he going to turn around? No, he's going to be pushing it out. He's going to keep it coming. No siege tanks. Really, that's what you want to see as a turn play. You want to have some siege tanks here. Unfortunately, the melee units stuck behind the range units here and not really working out too well, but there's just so much Zerg here. It's going to be really difficult to come out. In the meantime, we do have the drop coming off. Both of the Widow mines are just dropped out. Really, really difficult situation here. He's got a micro. Both players have to micro both sides at the same time, so it's about prioritizing which battle you're going to do. 12 workers already dead. You've got a couple of Hellbats over here, but 20 workers killed here.
Way too many workers killed.
If you wanted to even out the economical game, he just did it. And you have 32 workers here to 13 workers of the Terran players. So Hydra back in the economic league, going back into drone production and a layer as well. So despite the fact that he did not deliver a killing blow, it may have been, you know, the mortal wounding of aLive, and aLive now has to bleed out. aLive, of course, going to fight on, you know, and say, "'Tis but a scratch," and all of that lovely things. But he's got his work cut out for him.
Unfortunately, this is not just a scratch though, because like, sometimes there are situations where you can see a Terran player in this situation and say, "Oh, it's not." Oh, good supply depot lift off. But I mean, if a Terran player is on 3cc and you see them in this position, you actually can say like, you know, it's not that bad. He's got 3 CCs worth of mules. He can produce 3 SCVs at a time, and Zerg players still on 2 base. But in this situation, when you have a Terran player only on 2 command center, they don't have any additional production facilities. They're literally just sitting on the bare minimum 1-1-1. They don't have an absurdly large army to put pressure on with. This is actually looking to be the corpse of aLive just trying to make something happen, you know, trying to play with necromancy or something to bring himself back into this game. And right now, Hydra's just not giving him any opportunities to. He's actually just playing this unbelievably safely and finally throwing down a third hatchery, but you know, has his layer tech up, producing more roaches that are going to be able to deal with any kind of aggression that aLive ever tries to throw at him.
Yeah, and aLive walking across the map here with some Hellbats. He's going to have him in a nice position, but...
Well, I mean, they're actually doing a pretty good job so far. Filling off clean, going to be able to get into the drone line. Drone's going to have to run away, and there's still those Marauders in the main base that are doing surprisingly well. aLive just showing some fantastic micro over here with the Medivacs and the Marauders.
Yep, really nice multitasking. Oh, and very cute picking up micro. The Marauder there. Love to see that. Pickup micro is pretty fantastic. You can get a lot of mileage out of bio units if you're really paying a lot of attention to them.
And, you know, he's doing the small things to try and bring himself back into this. Does some nice damage and escapes with the majority of the units. Loses very few, if any at all. And
he's going into double eBay here, so he really feels like he can get into the longer game here and make those double eBays pay off. But it is going to be tough at basically half the worker count and half the supply of his opponent.
I mean, he can't even afford to actually make a full supply depot wall off or a bunker wall off at his front, so he's gonna end up losing these Hellbats at the front and having to pull SCVs versus these Roaches. This is probably the least ideal situation, but I mean, Hydra is such a good player that he knows exactly what to do, and that is going to be a very, very good sign for Hydra as he storms on in through the natural expansion, now making his way to say, hey, I want to actually get into your main base. I want to start killing off everything you own and hold dear. And behind this, I'm gonna make like 15, 20 drones, no big deal.
Nah, he's gonna get up to this full 3-base saturation. He's gonna have triple the economy of aLive. Don't be fooled by the fact that there's 2 bases here. The only thing that truly matters is the worker count, and it is nearly triple right now. So I can't believe how careful Hydra's being right now. He's being so ridiculously patient. It's fantastic.
It is certainly interesting to see. He's going for the Spire finally, and adding on those gas guys and everything is going to be able to put on that kind of pressure into aLive's main base, and also just have another avenue of opportunity to shut down the medevac drops that aLive has been trying to send out. And, you know, he's done a little bit of damage with some of those medevac drops and stuff, but once the Mules pop out, that's really going to cause a lot of problems for aLive. If he can't find a way to establish a 3rd expansion soon-ish, or at least by the time Hydra decides to try and grab a 4th, then he could be in a lot of trouble. But this medevac drop over at the 3rd, kills off the queen,
and you know what,
gets out of there.
You know what the thing is? Let's think of this from this perspective. You know, it seems hopeless for aLive. How can he come back? It has to be through just amazing harassment. Because he can't take any sort of main engagements. His opponent's army is too big, so he has to be everywhere at once. He has to be pulling his opponent out of position, buying time. Like we said, is a really tall order for aLive, but don't count him out just yet. He is fighting tooth and nail to stay in this game.
Yeah, but there's a lot of teeth and a lot of nails they used to fight against right now, because to be entirely honest, when you have a Zerg player who's sitting up in the upgrades and getting +2 armor before +1 weapons has even finished up for the Terran player, you know that the Terran player is in a lot of trouble. Medevac going to be coming into the main base over here for aLive, and there are some Zerglings and Banelings that are ready to intercept this, but oh, there they finally end up going. And aLive does have a good reaction time to it.
Yep, you can really see the attention to detail. He is so keyed in. He's in this magical zone that players get on when they're just fighting. And the absolute every single attention to detail is he's picking up just in time. He's not throwing away any units. Everything, every little tiny thing matters right now because he needs everything to stay in this game.
Yeah, gonna have to be careful as he's gonna end up losing. It looks like potentially the medevac drop. Medevac trying to run away from the Mutalisk, and I don't even know which just got picked off over there. I don't know if that was a Viking or a medevac that I saw, but regardless, ends up losing both the drops and the drop and the medevac. Still has a force in the bottom left.
Oh wow! And he just sends some roaches over to check to see. You've been dropping from here, haven't you? It's like, oh, that's where you're hanging out. Pushes him out of that, and the creep spread is brutal. He's got vision. He's got basically legal map hacks going on right now. He knows everything that's happening.
Yeah, and very soon I actually think that Hydra's gonna have a great opportunity in about 20 seconds to attack with +2 Carapace versus just +1 weapons of aLive. But you know, he's not even gonna wait for it. He's just going straight for it. Siege Tank's gonna be taken out very quickly by these Mutalisks, and just absolute domination in this engagement. It's not even close. Hydra taking game number 2 and evening up the series 1-1.
A super decisive, crushing defeat there. Hydra administering the pain upon aLive there. And
after aLive looked like he was doing really well, right? It was after aLive had gone for that proxy Reaper opening, the 888, had done some nice damage, forced out so many Zerglings, had his CC follow up behind it and everything. But he just wasn't prepared for the massive Roach flood, and he didn't get really vision of it. He didn't get much scouting on that. He didn't have any bunkers prepared. He actually ended up having his supply depot lowered, so he had to use SCVs to stop the Zerglings and Roaches from flooding in. Just everything about that defense just didn't really go so well for aLive. But before that, he was sitting to be in a great position. I think that's got to be one of the most frustrating way to lose.
It is one of those moments in time, and you know, it's that sort of, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword, live by the rush, die by the rush kind of thing. If you can't get that damage in, and you're playing a player like Hydra, there is no room for error in that kind of thing, and he will make you pay for it.
Indeed, but we're going to be getting ready to hop into game number 3 with the series tied up 1-1 in this best of 7 series. Who's going to be able to come out victorious? Right now, I would actually not hate too much to see aLive do something aggressive again. It didn't feel to me like it was the early game that he was struggling with, or that he wasn't able to make that kind of early aggression work. It was the follow-up. He just has to be a little bit more careful about the potential follow-up from Hydra. And I think something like that could potentially work again. Because, I mean, you consider what Hydra opened with. Hydra opened with a spawning pool first, had his queens out on time and everything. Like, everything should have been okay for Hydra, but aLive still made it work really well. I suppose it'll still probably depend a little bit on the map. And wait to see
for sure.
what map we end up even seeing this go to determine like what kind of build orders would maybe be a little bit stronger or weaker on this map. But you know, Jack Tech, as long as we have everyone's lovely attention, let's talk a little bit about the people who make Team Gravity Fight Night Tournament of Champions possible, and that would be the sponsors.
Absolutely, we've got a slew of great sponsors. Oh fuck you. Our individual sponsor, just a fantastic individual member of the community, making things happen, supporting a lot of streamers and events and all kinds of cool stuff. Just a really great guy, all around, just supporting esports. And you know, we've also got Spawning Tool, which, as you all know, one of my favorite things on the planet of the Earth. Really great analytical tool for you, a really great analytical tool for casters, for everybody. And it'll also, number one feature, really suggests if you want to learn a build, there is no faster way than using an audio build order with Salt and Spawning Tool. It's fantastic.
Yeah, very useful way to try and just get better at StarCraft. That's something that I feel like a lot of people forget. That there's so many different tools that you can use to do that. But of course, in addition to spawning tool and of course hitbox that make the broadcast possible, as well as Oh Fuck You, there is also the G2A sponsorship that we have going, and that is actually something that you guys can get involved with. And all you have to do is subscribe over here on the Hitbox channel to Team Gravity Fight Night, and by doing so, you will get a $5 coupon to G2A for any games that you decide to purchase in the near future. And in a way, you can kind of think of it like if you're gonna buy the game anyways, you just decide to buy it on G2A, you subscribe on Hitbox, and you get awesome access to be able to post GIFs in the chat. And it's almost just like it's like a 2-for-1 deal, right? Like you're gonna buy the game, so why not also just get your Hitbox subscription to Team Gravity Fight Night while you're at it?
You know, it's like building a robo. You get the detection with the observer, and you also get to deal the ridiculous damage with the immortals to the roaches. You know, it doesn't get too much better than that. Of course.
But with that being said, we're going to be jumping into game number 3 between these two players as we spawn up here in the top side of a map that I am quite fond of. That is Dashing Terminal. The Red Terran player, give it up for aLive.
And spawning on the map with the shortest Reaper Rush distance known to man, we have the Zerg player, who would potentially have to deal with such Reapers coming out. It is Roots Hydra.
You know what I always kind of wished about this map? You know what I always kind of wished about this map? I kind of wish that the area at the Zerg base, if we take a look at the area where a Reaper would normally hop up to the main base of the Zerg player, there's this kind of these weird pipes that act as like a small little area where, you know, the Reaper would hop up, but they can't actually maneuver over those pipes. I always wish that on the Zerg side, those pipes extended a little bit further in so that you could theoretically build like 2 evolution chambers and wall off that side for Reapers to enter, if that makes sense.
That would be pretty interesting.
So the problem is that there's not creep spread close enough to make a complete wall off over there right now. But if it was just a little bit further,
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring that base in. Map makers out there, we're looking at you. Okay, we want wall-offs against Reapers. Bring this side in, obviously. Should be creeped up. Pipes in. And we want some Evo Chamber wall-offs from all of you Zerg professional gamers.
Yeah.
Get on it right away. Make it happen. Please.
How cool would that be, though? You build your spawning pool over by that corner, and then you just, like, when you anticipate the Reapers are coming in, you plop down an evolution chamber, and you end up canceling it after your queen pops out. Take literally no damage from the Reaper.
Almost as cool as that episode of When Cheese Fails, when the guy gets proxied, and to deal with the proxy, he just surrounds it with all of his buildings, and the Paras player can't do anything because completely surrounded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, Terran. I remember that game. All right, well, we do have fairly fast CC coming out from aLive. Not a CC first, but a CC on the low ground, nonetheless. And just no Reapers, actually. On the map that we were talking about how good Reapers are at getting across the map, he doesn't go for the Reaper. He just builds some good old Marines.
And that's kind of one of those things. When something is really, really good, it becomes predictable, and you have to be careful about being predictable, especially in the world of the pro gamer, because you can't just assume, oh yeah, he won't assume that I'm doing the best possible thing, because they both respect each other as strong players, and they both expect each other to do the best possible thing for the most part. But, you know, it's a great map, not just for Reapers, but for other things too, getting this base up. You have the destructible rocks there that you can help you out. You do have this gap over here to the side that the Zergling is now sneaking around. I believe that is an augmentation of Tasteless's secret hallway from the old Zelnaga caverns. It has returned, Tasteless secret hallway, and of course on the other side of the map we have John's, the translator's common knowledge hallway that everyone knows about.
You know what's funny about that is that this augmentations went from Tasteless secret hallways saying like here's an entrance to your natural to here's a way to bypass the natural. Like, the purpose of it has completely changed, but it's so true. A really cute push out over here, though, from aLive. moving out with an SCV and a handful of Marines with the Hellions. It's just a really weird push out.
Yeah, and it's a lot earlier, and you can tell that because he only started building that plume of lings when he expected those things to be out. And he even gets 2 queens for his trouble, so pretty nice. The queen count right now is only 1, and the larva count of the Zerg is going to fall behind as a result of just that 1 queen being out. The second one finishing up
already killed
just now.
aLive killed off 6 workers, 2 queens, and 6 Zerglings now, still killing off a couple more as they chase away after those Hellions. And really nice target fire, by the way, from these Zerglings. Each right-clicking down a particular Hellion to make sure that it's not just kind of split damage across the Hellions. But really, really effective push-out, I would say, over there from aLive. Now, there's still a little bit of concern. There's a lot of Zerglings out on the map right now, and aLive doesn't exactly have a wall-off.
Actually, he doesn't have a wall off at all. Oh man!
Well,
just
you know what?
morphed
Let's just build the banelings. Just like, hey, by the way, I think you forgot to wall off.
Oh my God! These Zerglings with the surround on the workers who aren't mineral walking right now.
Well,
Man.
I don't know what keeps those supply depots alive, but I know it brings them down, Jack Attack, and I think I might know what could potentially do game-ending damage right now, as the SCVs
really
are just
nice
being absolutely
positioning
massacred. Oh, those Hellions.
Really well done.
Doing a great job.
Yeah, using the
great job
SCVs as a sort of wall to protect the Hellions and defend the attack. But are we in another one of these situations where aLive is in big trouble? I think it's a little bit less extreme than last time, where 16 workers to 25, and more lings coming out from Hydra.
Very interesting. I just noticed there's a spore crawler in the main base of Hydra. Gonna ask questions about that one later. But for now, aLive is gonna be able to pick off some of these overlords, potentially supply block Hydra, and he's also got a large number of these Hellions, so I think he should be able to deal with a massive number of speedlings that are being thrown at him. These are speedlings that could have potentially been drones, but weren't, and that does allow aLive to maybe, after killing off these speed Zerglings, move across the map and put on that counter harassment. The Widowmine already doing some nice damage.
Yep, really nicely done there, and well defended. Very cost-efficient engagement for aLive. Puts him back into, you know, sort of even territory. But keep in mind, we're still 16 workers to 38 here. It's going to take a little bit more, and maybe these Hellbats are just the thing that he needs.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be up against 100% pure, unadulterated Zerglings with just a few Banelings mixed in. But the Banelings aren't quite done just yet, and there aren't even going to be that many of them. 4 Banelings, I mean, it's a helpful amount, but even these 4 Banelings look like they're going to immediately be focus fired down by a lot of these Hellbats. And actually, the spread from the Hellbats is pretty good as well.
Yeah, really nice splitting. Absolutely, and that's GG. Wow. Well played there. Very back and forth game from aLive and Hydra.
Yeah, aLive able to put on that kind of weird early aggression that Hydra just clearly wasn't ready for. Hydra once again doing that kind of counter swing of, well, here's a bunch of units, and aLive is just like, wait a second, I forgot that you can counterattack me if I lose all of my Hellions or all of my units. But this game, as opposed to the last game where, you know, Hydra was able to spiral out of control after the Roach attack, these speed Zerglings eventually got cleaned up, and aLive was able to do the counter aggression and be able to bring this game back in his favor. We're bringing the series 2-1.
Really clutch positioning, getting those SCVs in front of the Hellions and protecting them, and roasting all those Zerglings with the splash damage. Just really well done. Excellent crisis management there from aLive that allowed him to, you know, turn that all around and make the victory happen.
And with that being said, we should be getting ready to hop into game number 4. Now, I want to note the cute thing about a best of 7 with the current map pool is that there are 7 maps, and things like Dash and Terminal can be played because there are no bans, there's no vetoes. Players just pick whatever map they want to play and they feel is a good map for them. And because of that, we end up seeing maps that we don't normally see, like Dash and Terminal, and we also end up seeing other maps like Bridgehead. And that warms my heart, Jack Attack. It warms my heart when we get to see maps like Bridgehead.
I love Bridgehead. And, you know, to the bane of all the people who hate Bridgehead. I love it. Aha.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Same
so
way for me.
very, very interesting map for those of you who haven't played this or you know, we're told to veto it, never even looked at it because Bridgehead is so imba. Really interesting map. You have some backdoor rocks. You have like a backdoor natural expansion, but the rocks make it a lot less safe than a normal backdoor expansion, like something like Vonnie Research Station. It's like, okay, backdoor expansion, great, you know, get that right away, wall in, you're safe. With this, you have a backdoor expansion that is protected by rocks for however long those rocks get to stay up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of interesting to see how players decide to grab third expansions on this map, just because normally a lot of players will just instinctively say, okay, well, backdoor rocks, will keep that like safely not ever knocked down, trying to stop them from being knocked down because they are just going to be another entryway I have to worry about. But a lot of players have been saying, well, if I just create a wall in over by my natural expansion, or sorry, in my main base, like exiting out toward the map, I can eventually knock down the destructible rocks at my back door and take a different third expansion that's going to allow me to expand toward my opponent's expansions. And for players like Terran, who can go for that kind of maneuvers, it allows them to get a much easier pushing access to their opponent. It allows them to move in much more easily. And the third expansion on the low ground of the main base, that one can be a little bit weird to defend sometimes. It can feel very wide open. So
yeah, you also kind of get that high ground advantage. It's not directly around that base over at the you know, next to the destructible rocks in the back door, but it is sort of one of those things you have to consider, and the wide openness of both those potential third bases is kind of on the even side. So, you know, it's really sort of stylistic where you're going to take your base.
yeah, and we'll wait and see what base aLive decides to take, or if he's just gonna go ahead and go for the 888 again, or do something hyper aggressive, where we're not even gonna be seeing third expansions. I will say I feel like aLive has tended to stay toward the 3CC style that I think a lot of Terran players tend to favor these days, more so than, you know, maybe some of the two base plays or two base heavy bits of aggression that some Terran players do prefer. Hydra, on the other hand, has just shown that he's not afraid to go for some of the more aggressive openings, like going for the two-base Spire opening, going for the big Roach attack after, you know, maybe a not-so-great opening or a big Speedling Flood. And it makes me think that aLive maybe should be playing just think about playing a little bit more conservatively, because how many times now has he almost died to like a counter swing after he does a little bit of aggression?
It's been really, really back and forth, like, oh, on the brink of death. Oh, you're on the brink of death.
Yeah.
I'm on the brink of death. And, you know, going back and forth like that. So, you know, being a little bit more careful. When you're ahead, get more ahead. That kind of a mentality might be benefiting aLive and Hydra in these next games, which we are into on Bridgehead in the non-corner. It's actually just the side of the map, the right side of the map. We have spawning the purple Zerg Root Hydra.
And his opponent spawning on the left-hand side of the map, we have the red Terran player representing Team Spinu. It is Spinu's aLive. All right, so we talked a little bit about third expansions. We talked about the destructible rocks. I think one of the things that I really like about this map, but I don't see utilized too often, in like the TVZ, and I've actually can't say I've ever really seen it, is the fact that there are destructible rocks as a part of the wall in over here for the Terran player.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, you know, that must make it a lot harder for Terran players to defend it against like a huge Speedling flood. Because normally you say, oh, we will never break down a Terran wall in with a ton of Speedlings because they'll just repair their supply depots, right? But when there's destructible rocks, you can't really repair them. So it makes me think about, you know, I wonder if Baneling busts or, you know, some big Speedling floods or something like that could be a little bit more effective than we normally give them credit for on this map.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's important to keep in mind too that this isn't the normal destructible rocks that have 3 armor. This is literally a supply depot. It's got 400 health
Yeah.
and 1 starting armor, and that's it. So they are rockular supply depots, if you will. But they do allow this super fast wall in just 1 depot and 1 barracks, and you're totally walled in. You can take that command center super duper quick and have absolutely no problems about it.
Well, guess guys are going down for Hydra behind the expansion they're throwing down, so probably going to be going for that early Zergling speed. But you know what, Jack Attack, I can always dream that a Baneling Nest will plop down and he'll go exactly for what I'm talking about. Just Baneling busts his way down to victory after he sees that aLive is going for the CC first. I mean, I really honestly wonder if the Baneling, like a Baneling all-in, would work in this situation versus a CC first.
I mean, it's definitely a possible situation. If you get 6 banelings on that barracks, it's going to kill the depot and the rocks. So it has that same sort of effect as a regular wall-in, where it opens up a lot of room. And also, this ramp is wider than most normal ramps. You know, the wall-in is quick, sure, but the ramp is a lot wider, so you get more surface area.
Well, we might not be seeing the ramp being utilized for extra banelings, but I think we might be seeing it utilized for extra roaches to fit in as a very early roach run being thrown down over here for Hydra. This is almost definitely going to be a very, very aggressive follow-up. aLive is just playing this out nice and standard. Hey, I went for the CC first. Okay, well, it looks like it's time for me to throw down my factory, get up my reactor, start getting out some eventual Hellions, and I'm really, really afraid right now, Jack Attack, that he's going to go for the 3rd CC.
It's definitely possible. We've seen him going toward it before. This is a really, really nice play from Hydra, recognizing the pattern and going right for it. I mean, he's got... This is the thing, though, right? He's got a lot of structures over here, and maybe he can make in the wall and the second wall behind the wall. That's the wall in, and you do that crazy thing where you try to defend, right? But even in that kind of a scenario, he still has these backdoor rocks, which he's already starting to slowly chip away at. That'll take about, you know, 25 in-game minutes for those rocks to go down. But hey, you know, you got to get them started somehow. But the point is, if he pushes all of his defenses over in one position, then he just knocks down the rocks and comes in from the other side. It's a rough position here. Because he's gone for roaches and not banelings, he has this option open to him a lot more. These line of sight blockers, I believe, will protect the roaches as they knock down these rocks.
But Jack Attack, with the Hellions moving across the map and drones being the follow-up over here for Hydra, I'm actually a little bit concerned that aLive will just run into the mineral line and start killing off drones. But no, he sees the roaches and he knows exactly what's coming. Before the rocks have actually been fully knocked down, he has time to respond. He has time to get up these 3 bunkers.
Whoa.
And that could be all
Really
he
nice
really needs to
positioning
defend
here.
this. This is good position.
Yeah, he's got Banshees coming out, and this is sort of a bit of the trade, right? He is going to lose some of this economy here for at least a short amount of time. Oh, but he's getting in here before the bunkers are finished.
Oh.
He kills 1, 2, and all 3
of the
work.
SCVs are...
No bunkers at all available here, and he comes plowing through with all the roaches. All the SCVs from every base are running to the other side. Nice Widow Mine hits there, but it might not be enough to save him. He's right on top of the production, and the Banshee is going to come out and start dealing out the damage. These roaches are on a timer, but they manage to stop the concussive shells, research, and they cut down a lot of damage here in just lost mining time.
Just 0 mining is happening right now. He's losing the reactor. The SCVs are being pulled once again, and oh my god, they have to actually be a little bit careful. Okay, I was a little bit worried that he's going to try and run them through when the Widow Mines are going to go off. He could have taken friendly fire damage, but...
I mean, but roaches are these tanky units, and, you know, roaches, hard to kill in real life, hard to kill in StarCraft. They're still not dead. They got 145 hit points. 15 workers are already down, and they're just moving their way along, killing more workers, plus the lost mining time. And like you said, the follow-up behind this isn't an all-in. The follow-up behind this is drones. He is droned up to an extreme 48 workers against the 23 remaining of aLive. What an excellent play on this map.
But Jack Attack, there is one thing that if you have watched enough StarCraft, you always know, never underestimate the power of 3CC and its ability to come back and claw its way back into games. You have to remember the third hatchery for Hydra is still fairly late. There's still some Hellions out on the map that can also try and put on some kind of counter pressure just because all the roaches have been cleaned up right now. It's going to be a little bit difficult for Hydra to be hyper greedy right now. He still has to make some units. He still has to be prepared for kind of counter aggression from aLive, especially with the Banshee. And aLive has the opportunity to try and equalize this game. So he's behind right now, but he has the tools he needs to bring himself back into it.
Absolutely, and a little bit of shenanigans coming around here from 3 Hellions, killing a couple Lings. Nothing too significant just yet. Moving directly into this space here. The pull should be on
Banshee
time.
has 9 kills. That Banshee has 9 kills. Jack, when did that Banshee get 9 kills?
I think they're all roaches.
Are they all roaches from the cleanup?
I think most of them are roaches.
Okay.
You could have gotten a couple of kills there, but I do think,
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
I mean,
I don't
he was
see 9
defensive,
worker
so roaches
kills.
probably
So.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think.
I just want to make sure, like,
not the thing.
Banshee
We
didn't
didn't miss that.
murdering. Okay. Well,
Oh my God!
Mutalisks
Look
are
at this.
out.
I love this so much. He puts one Mutalisk over there, just to see. It's like, oh, okay, is the Banshee coming? It is. I'll kill it in its face. Ooh, just barely pulling up that supply heap one time. Nicely done. Oh, but that is a lot of Banelings. The follow-up attack from Hydra coming in here. It's gonna blast through that bunker, no problem.
Put a Mind Spurling.
Is vulnerable here.
Okay, well, looks like at the same time aLive trying to do these drops on the other side of the map, not being super duper effective, but here come in the Banelings, and there's just so much depth with this walling in, but at the same time, the small little gap enough. Hydra gonna be able to even up the series once again, 2-2.
Fantastic play. I just love the... And I think that's what we get. That's what we get with these unique maps is we have people playing the map and realizing, okay, you can't defend 2 locations at once. I'm going to play in a certain way. It's going to be really difficult to deal with, and I'm going to be able to get an advantage out of it. It's not this all in. It's this very calculated pressure with the intentional follow-up.
And Bridgehead, obviously a very nice map to do exactly that kind of maneuver. And Hydra definitely taking advantage of it. We are sitting at an evened up series once again. aLive has always been either even or ahead in the series though. And eventually at some point, if Hydra wants to bring this series back and win it, he has to take the lead. And this is his time. He's got to take some momentum back right now, or he's going to be sitting in a very awkward situation where he's saying, I have to bring this to the very last game to even stand a chance at coming back in this series.
Yep, and like you said, just this super close series, you know, back and forth, blow for blow, just like the games directly inside here, just I'm gonna attack you and deal tons of damage, and just really, bludgeoning each other over and over again in these matches. But before we get into these next games, want to make sure that you all know that you're special and fantastic, and we appreciate you viewing, because as much as we love our sponsors like Hitbox and G2A and OFU, we love our sponsors and we love our casters like Fear Dragon and our producer Beast, who also does the observing. We love you even more because without you, this would not exist.
Viewers definitely make this all possible, and we're incredibly grateful for everyone that decides to tune in and has just supported Team Gravity through all of the fight nights that they have been throwing. I know that the people behind Team Gravity are insanely appreciative and have put in a ton of effort and work to try and make the viewing experience as good as possible. So thank you to everyone that decides to give it a chance and check it out. But I think that we are almost ready to hop into the next game. We're trying to figure out the map order. It looks like game number 5 is going to be played on the map Cactus Valley. Should be interesting. Cactus Valley, a map I can only think of through base trade TV, like map intros. It's just forever embedded in my mind. The Cactus Valley dance.
Yeah, I only think of Cactar when I think Cactus Valley.
That's pretty much it.
It is forever emblazoned upon the fabric of my mind for all time. I'll be 90 years old, like in my deathbed. Oh, Cactus Valley. You know, I'll be just, thinking
You'll
about
just
it.
hear that music. Oh man. But I'm sure that these players have other things on their mind right now, as Cactus Valley, 4-player map, and honestly a pretty big one. So kind of interested. What do you feel like? Big 4-player or a big 4-player map? Think this is another one of those games that we get to see, one of those longer, drawn-out macro games that I think was sort of more similar to game number 1 of the series?
I think a lot of times the big maps will get a little mind gamey and someone will try to cheese unexpectedly, but I feel like in this case we've gone blow for blow.
Seen it
We're
so
2-2
much. Yeah.
in the game score, so it's like I think at this point in time we really start getting serious with the longer drawn out macro games, really trying to take it, both players believing, no, I'm actually the better player here, we're going to take it out long and I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I'm almost just kind of like, you know what? We could try and figure out where the two players are with the mind games and everything, but it's almost a fruitless effort at this point, because as soon as we try and say, we think that the mind games are going to be so mind gamey that they aren't going to mind game, that's the game. That's the game that they're going to mind game on. They're going to try and go back and forth on it so much that I'm more interested in just talking about, I guess, third expansions on this map, because I love third expansions on every map. I love talking about third expansions. As well as just the long push distance. And if we end up getting cross spawn, which we did, then we are going to be potentially in set up for a much longer drawn out macro game. Spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, representing Team Root for Root, and has tied the series up multiple times. It's currently tied up 2-2. It is Root for Root's Hydra.
And spawning on the cross spawn top right location, we've got the Red Terran representing Team Spenu. It's aLive. It is aLive. Similar to Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein. You would be one of the people that does know the difference between Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. You would be one of those few people that's like, actually, Frankenstein was the scientist that created the monster. The monster itself is not named Frankenstein.
Actually, it's pronounced Frankenstein. I didn't know that. Like...
Is it really? Is it really?
No. It's Have you ever seen the Mel Brooks rendition, Young Frankenstein?
I have not.
Oh man. Yeah. So Frankenstein, says, actually it's Frankenstein, and then Igor comes up to him like, oh hello, you must be Igor, and he goes, actually it's pronounced Igor, and then Frankenstein says, I didn't know it was pronounced like that, and he goes, well they were wrong then, weren't they? And then he's just like, oh man. Oh, I couldn't possibly do it justice, but if you haven't checked it out yet, some old school, a little bit of dry wit in there. Mel Brooks, one of my favorite comedian, filmmaker people.
That sounds fantastic. I always feel like when it comes to names and pronunciation and everything, I'm like halfway in between. It's also just subjective. Whoever... And then at the other hand, like a lot of people I know say, like, well, whoever created the name or gave the name is the one that determines how it's pronounced. I'm like, no. Whoever says the name determines how it's pronounced. And in our case, see, that gives me the safety net of whenever I talk about players and I'm casting them, I basically just get to say, like, the commentators get to decide how it's pronounced. As demonstrated with the case of Hydra, who... I think Artosis was famously known for just constantly calling him Hydra, until everyone called him Hydra instead of Idra, which is how it was actually supposed to be pronounced.
Right. Hydra, short form for Idrijit, which is a demon.
Yeah.
But so you can take that route. I mean, Artosis is known for pronouncing pretty much everything wrong. You know, and you can be that guy.
Yeah, Zigua, Haas. There's definitely a few others that I'm just like, I don't actually know if this is being pronounced correctly, but you know what? The casters said it, so that's the way it is now.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Zaka. Is pronounced like some players will call it sock. I'm just like, no, he's German. It's Zaka.
I actually call him sake. Yeah.
Yeah.
I pronounce it similar to the alcohol beverage, sake.
All right.
S-A-K with an E with apostrophe. It's best pronounced that way. But we did have a Reaper opening, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
By the way, there's a StarCraft game going on. Just so you know.
I mean, everything has been pretty par for the course right now. We've been seeing this kind of gas opening from Hydra over and over and over again. But he's not adding on a Roach Ward like last game. He's not following us up with an all-in. He's just droning up behind it, getting up his Queen defense. He's up against, you know, the very, very standard opening from aLive. The one final deviation is that aLive is finally not opening up with a 3CC build. He's going straight up into that starport and looking like he wants to finally put on a little bit more aggression. Whereas, well, we do have Hydra going up for that faster layer tech. Maybe potentially a fast 2-base Spire play. That I think he's a little bit for.
Absolutely. And yeah, aLive gets cross spawns in a giant map and says, you know what? This is the map I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive on and not go 3C. But the thing is that really, really small choke for the natural and then pretty big open spots for the third. Whichever third you take, the gap that you have to deal with is quite large. And especially when you're dealing with Zerg, they really thrive, especially in the early game with these big open areas, as their main unit is almost all the time going to be the Zergling. And even if it's not, they usually have larger number of units than you do, as is the nature of the Zerg.
Yeah, and one kind of interesting side effect of when you see this 2-base Spire play come out is that you end up having a much faster layer tech, and because you have a faster layer tech, you actually have this weird opportunity where, like, actually, for this super duper early Widowmine drop, I can make Overseers if I need to. And the Overseers are going to be useful in general anyways versus a Terran player making Widowmines. So you can make it, have it ready so that your Mutals also have the advantage of having that Overseer. And then you can use it for the defense and save yourself from making a ton of Spore Crawlers. But Widowmines are starting to burrow over here in the main base, and Overseer's already being started.
Oh, wow, that was really interesting. He unburrowed and avoided killing those Lings there, trying to get some worker kills. Didn't really work out for him. His only Overseer was across the map at the time, so he had to build a fresh one at home. But now it's all set and ready to go. He's got a nice Spore Crawler. I love these. These are my favorite Spore Crawlers. The zoning Spore Crawlers is sort of like, yeah, you just don't even get next to my mineral line, actually. Don't go anywhere near it, please.
Yeah, kind of interesting. It's like that extra maneuver, since he did already have the Overseer to detect everything. But yeah, just being a little bit more careful. And that drop did stay alive, but here come in the Hellbats. And this is going to be sort of the scary moment. Hellbats can actually take down a hatchery relatively quickly. As you can already see, it's almost down to below half health. The Spinecrawler burning very far back right now.
He might have to cancel this, but he lets it finish. Oh, wow. Wasn't really expecting that, but then of course,
he's buying time.
What he can defend. Oh, they're just chasing them all the way through here and under fire of the Spinecrawler.
Beautifully well done, and he's going to be able to clean up all of these Hellbats now, almost for free. I don't even know if he lost a Queen there.
No, he did not lose a Queen there. He had 3, and he still has 3. The transfuses were on point. Didn't lose the hatchery. Turns out that a half-health hatchery mines the same rate as a full-health hatchery, so not anything at all done there by that attack.
Yeah, and the drop that had come in earlier and went back in later did not do too much damage. It managed to kill a total 7 workers across its entire lifespan, but the Mutals are now going to be out, and there are a lot of missile turrets already finished up for aLive. Actually, a whopping 3 missile turrets in the main base, in conjunction with the Thor and the 2 Vikings in the like sitting outside, and even a missile turret in the natural expansion. So aLive is going to be unbelievably well prepared for the Mutalists, but they still get map control. That's something I can't understate or overstate enough. Is that
overstate? Yeah.
Overstate enough is that they still control whenever Hellions try and move out. They take all the pot shots. The third expansion is going to be more vulnerable. Just everything becomes more difficult for aLive when it comes to moving out on the map.
Oh, wow. Those are some nice Thor hits over there. Really good positioning up in here, defending. But like you said, with that position, he's going to go all the way up to 76 drones in a second here. So he's going to have this full, crazy, like, 4-base economy. And he's going to have this 1-1 Roach, I think, coming out for an attack on the third.
Yeah, going for that kind of Roach Hydra composition versus what he's determined now is the meching style from aLive. And I'm very curious how well this is going to end up working out. This is actually, I would actually say I'm a little bit surprised to see aLive going for that meching style on this map with these spawn locations, just because it's such a long journey across the map, Jack Attack. And it's so difficult to move all the way across the map to get to your opponent's actual bases and start dealing damage without taking massive amounts of counterattack damage.
Oh, man, and look at this defensive posture. He's got Thor's up in the corner. He's building 2 more command centers. He is hunkering down and getting ready to weather the storm here. He's moving around. He's scouting out with his Vikings here. But, you know, like you said, total map control to Hydra. And I think that, you know, aLive's like, yeah, okay, you know what? You have your creep spread, have your map control. I'm going to have this ridiculously cost-efficient army in about 5 minutes, and I might just kill you with it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I like about the Roach Hydra composition, though, is that it's going to be one of those strong mid-game compositions. And they handle units that, aLive, you know, there's different types of meching compositions, despite the fact that, you know, people sometimes just group up and say, oh, he's going mech. But, I mean, there's different types of mech. There's a very siege tank heavy mech. There's a mech style where you get a lot of the Thors much earlier on. There's the more air-oriented mech style. And with a lot of the Thors being added on so much earlier on, I think that the Roaches are going to have a much easier time, because the Roaches can focus fire down those Thors very, very quickly.
Yeah, this tank spread is going to be really important. He is building 3 tanks at a time. He's going to be up to 7 relatively soon here. And he's very intelligently spacing them out about a blinding clouds apart. We're not quite to that stage in the game yet. Hive about a third done. But we will most certainly be moving into that late macro game where Hydra apparently is going to have 1,000 bases. I think approximately 1,000 bases is the number of bases he's going for here. aLive's going to say, okay, well, I guess I have to do something while I'm just hanging out here and macroing up and getting a million siege tanks. Man. Oh, nice
Hydra
scout.
has
Look at
perfect
that Zergling. Oh.
The perfect Zergling that may or may not have actually noticed the medevac. Because Hydra is not moving any of his army toward where that... Okay, no, he's moving the Mutalisks. He's moving the Mutalisks. This is actually a really good reaction over here. He just uses the 4 Mutalisks that are left over. Not even like a lot of them. Just a small little squadron of them. And he's able to clean up the drop. Absolutely no problem. And now look at this. aLive moves out on the map and is like, oh, this creep spread's really, really far out on the map right now. And I don't know how comfortable he actually feels moving this far in. This has got to feel feeling very awkward.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to use these scans up to clear what creep he can, or he could just say, you know what, I've just accepted it. I am on creep.
The drop in the natural. The drop in the natural pulls the entire army back into the natural. That halts a lot of the
getting sieged up
abilities. Here. Oh my god, he's almost trapped Hydra inside of his own natural expansion. The important part for Hydra about getting that crystal was that he was going to have this golden opportunity to get a nice surround, to get into a nice position, maneuver himself around, but he suddenly doesn't have that anymore. He's trapped.
Oh man, what a brilliant position with these siege tanks, and he can get away with it right now because the Vipers haven't come into the fray yet, but just hatched, got some energy, and they will be punishing this position relatively soon. He's trying to end. Here it is. It's triggered.
Oh.
We have some brilliant blinding clouds coming down.
But he's so clunked up right now. He's taking a lot of splash damage from the few siege tanks that can fire. The Vipers have all been cleaned up. And even though the Thors and the Hellbats are getting cleaned up, I think that aLive still has enough to push on through whatever Hydra is throwing at him. And he's only getting more reinforcements. So many siege tanks are still coming in. And it's just a rally of mech across the map.
And the thing is, all those Vipers were killed off. They're not being remade. This position, this middle position, just absolutely demolishes everything. Look at this meat grinder of a position here. All of the Zerg units just being decimated right now.
Vikings landing and saying, well, all we have to do is soak up a few hits for these siege tanks to wail away at whatever roaches or hydras are coming out. And even though he's made some progress in pushing back the siege tank force and line a little bit further back, one of the expansions, the third expansion, was still under fire, and next up is going to be that fourth expansion just a little bit further down south. The 4 Mutalisks, though, oh my god, there's absolutely no response to the 4 Mutalisks. Finally, some of the Vikings are coming out, but these Mutalisks are actually able to kill off a couple of these very forward-placed siege tanks.
Oh, and in combination, he's able to catch some siege tanks unsieged and actually clean up this attack. What a defense from Root Hydra.
Just barely. The hatchery, the third expansion, only has 195 hit points left over. There's actually a Hellbound working away on it. Oh my god, with the Vikings, he may be able to just finally barely be able to finish off that hatchery. That's actually a really big deal. At the same time, aLive has established a fourth expansion and is going after that fifth expansion of Hydra. Hydra has to go there and defend it and needs to keep that expansion alive. Otherwise, he's going to be reduced down to just a 3-base economy.
Such a difficult position, despite the fact that the economy, you know, may be in a rough spot for Hydra. As aLive, when you get your tank count reset like that, it's just absolutely brutal. It's going to be really difficult to defend any sort of counter push coming in from Hydra, and we do have such a counter push happening. And nicely picking off a drop over there. Extra free bonus damage for Hydra for being at the right place at the right time. He's going to come in here and, oh man, aLive is not in position to defend this. He's going to repair it as much as he possibly can. And the planetary fortress is actually going to survive. Turns out it's really hard to kill planetary fortress when they are completely surrounded by workers repairing them.
Yeah, a little bit frustrating, I'm sure, over there for Hydra, because that was his golden opportunity where he says, I've killed off so much of your force, and as you were saying, you need to replenish that siege tank as aLive, but there's that small little window where you say, okay, my opponent doesn't have a siege tanks, he's busy remaking them, I'm on Roach Hydra, I churn out my units like nobody's business. This is my time, this is my chance to kill off my opponent's economy. And then he doesn't. And he just ends up not really doing the damage he wanted to. And now he's being forced back by these Hellbound drops in the natural, in the third expansion.
Killed. Absolutely. It's just perfect play from aLive here. Able to defend that, and at the same time, not just, oh, I defended that, I'm going to send off some drops. The drops were already pre-planned. They were already headed out. He's like, okay, I'm going to defend this while they're out there. He'll be out of position. I'm going to get tons of kills, which he does. And we are getting into the turret building placement. That's my favorite part of mech, building turrets. It's so much fun.
You know what my favorite part of mech is? It's the battle cruisers. the battle cruisers that are starting to come out now. And this is that point where I start to wonder, has Hydra missed the timing that he needed to hit to really make this whole thing work? And he's got a couple of Hydras still left over to deal with, say, something like a battle cruiser, but he's getting out the Ultras. I feel like this is going to be a key critical time. He has to make some real advancements with this Ultras push.
He had a moment there.
I'm a little bit afraid.
He had a moment there where his opponent's armor was a little bit out of position, but it didn't work out. These Hellions are going to come in, try to get some more kills. The Ultralisk just running around trying to catch them and finish them off. But silly and clumsy the Ultralisk is, but the tusks are large, and they manage to clean up that type of stuff. And we are getting into the heavy static D portion of the game. The spine crawlers are coming down. And just protecting these economies here is going to be really an important part of the rest of this game.
Nobody expects the 25-minute Banshee with Cloak. As the Banshee is already upped itself to 5 kills, and you gotta be able to snag a couple more because these spore crawlers are the spore crawler, I should say, not even spore crawlers. One spore crawler, very slow to finish. The Banshee makes its way out with 9 kills.
Yep, and we even have another Banshee coming in on the side. Another one of these delayed Banshees is just sort of like, I'm just going to throw this in there and mess with you a little bit. You know, it's not a huge investment, but I mean, he is still getting Cloak with those Banshees. So it's not just he built a Banshee, he built 2 Banshees and Cloak but I think he got his money's worth out of it.
Well, unfortunately for Hydra, he still needs some kind of answer for these battle cruisers. He's got a lot of Hydralists out, but I know that he's trying to live up to his name with the Hydralist production, but they just do not do the massive amount of damage I feel like he needs to have versus the battle cruisers. Unless he's able to just kill off the siege tanks, unless he's able to just completely break through and keep those Hydras alive, he's gonna have a lot of trouble. But here we go, Ultralisk doing some really nice damage against these Hellbats, and the Hydras are doing pretty decently versus the battle cruisers. But I think once these siege tanks are back up, they might be able to deal with the Hydralisks.
Yeah, it's definitely possible these Ultralists are just absolutely far. Look at that, just dropping the Mule Hammer right in front of him. He says, "Get out!"
Oh my god.
I have claimed this base. I am not afraid that I won't hold it, and that's
Wow.
it. GG. aLive takes the game.
And once again, for the third time in today's series, has brought himself to a 1-0 lead versus Hydra. Hydra has been able to tie up the series repeatedly. It's been going 1-for-1, blow for blow. That's the Team Gravity Fight Night curse. If you're a player anyways, that's ahead. It's a blessing if you're a player that's behind, or any of the viewers or commentators that get to watch these awesome back and forth games. But at some point, this is it. Hydra has to tie up the series and has to have some kind of momentum built up to win 2 games in a row, which he hasn't been able to do at all this entire series.
If it does go to Game 7, though, it's always better to be in Hydra's position, having just won a game, getting to go into Game 7. But this is where it happens, right? This is the real difficult scenario where it's like, you have to win this game right now, and your opponent doesn't have anywhere near that pressure. They have all the range available. They might cheese you and just be like, yeah, I can cheese you. I can afford a game. So you, generally speaking, as a player that's behind, have to play a lot more safe, or you have to really, really know how your opponent acts in this kind of a position. How does aLive play when he's up a game in a series? And Hydra's had a lot of those situations this series so far, so hopefully he can get a good read on his opponent and open well and finish strong. We'll have to see, of course, because I'm always hoping for a Game 7.
Of course. But you know, the map for game number 6 is going to be Iron Fortress, and this is one of those times where I say, a lot of the early things that Terran players will do to Zerg players to try and throw them off are very early on. It's not so much like the, oh, well, 2 base, I'll mix things up a little bit. I mean, there are those ways you can say, like, I will not go for the 3cc build, I'll go for the Starport instead, and you know, or go for the faster Widowmine drop or something like that. You can do those things, but they're not the big plays that we would consider like a big cheese that really keeps your opponent honest. A lot of the big aggressions that Terran players will do will happen on 1 base very early on with very early barracks. And that's hard to do on a map like Iron Fortress. So I think that Hydra might actually be pretty happy with this map choice for game number 6 in that sense. There are other problems with this map, though. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But guys, we're going to be jumping into the game as we spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Top of the purple Zerg player representing team Root for Root. Cannot lose a game anymore. It is Hydra.
And spawning in the top right. He's got the advantage in this series. Will he close it out now, or will we go to Game 7? Only time will tell. The Red Terran aLive.
All right, so Iron Fortress. Let's talk about third expansions, Jack Attack.
I want that to become your, like, you know, the thing that you say all the time. Like Artosis says, when your head get more to head, you say, let's talk about expand. I want that to be your thing. Let's make that happen.
Oh man, you know, it's something that actually Day9 used to say, so I can't even take full credit for, but it's something that I think the more I've thought about it, the more I've always felt like it is so unbelievably true. The game, at least in Heart of the Swarm, I'm still trying to decide if that's the case in Legacy of the Void, but the game revolves around third expansions, and I think a lot of the time, your game plan will revolve around sometimes whether or not you even want to take a third expansion, but the timing that you decide to take a third expansion at determines so much of the game flow and how you decide to play it out. And also just like positioning of thirds, how easy it is to take or defend can really affect that. And I think that's why I want to talk about it on this map in particular. Iron Fortress, third expansions are so far away, it really opens itself up for Hellbat aggression, for Banshee aggression, for all kinds of crazy pushes that Terran players can do, because it takes a lot more time to get that creep spread across, to get the queens there for the defense against all those pushes. And I think for that reason, we may see aLive do a little bit more of that kind of 2-base, early, delay the third CC, and just go for like the Hellbat aggression, or like as I was saying, like Hellbat or Banshee, some kind of early 2-base aggression.
Mm-hmm. I think also in these particular positions, you're closer by air. You have a lot of opportunities for drops and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, going off what you said about the third expansion, a big part about StarCraft, at least in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, is that once you get up to 3-base, the reason why it's third base is so important is once you get up to 3-base saturation, it becomes detrimental for you to build more workers because it starts cutting into your army supply. And
Right.
when that happens, you know, it's just sort of this thing where it's like, in the beginning, people built tons of drones and they realized if they got a 4th base, they would lose to the player that had 3 bases, despite the fact that, you know, you had more bases. The amount of cost that would go in for you to get that economic advantage was just too much. Speaking of third expansions, this is a really fast third CC from aLive. He's been going 3 CC, but I mean, this is
now what we
super
actually
greedy.
call 3CC. This is what we call just unbelievable amounts of, I kind of want to just say greed. Because normally when you talk about 3CC builds, you're talking about barracks or CC or, you know, CC barracks, and then you plant down the factory first, start getting out your Hellions, and then after all of that is said and done, you're starting to plant down that third CC. This is just like, immediately, oh, I got a barracks with some Marines. Okay, time to plant down my third CC, and cross my fingers, hope to die. Please don't attack me yet.
That Overlord there, narrowly escaping death. Overlord hunting, one of my favorite hobbies when playing turn.
So Jack, do you remember what I just... Do you remember that time where I said, you know, cross my fingers, hope to die, please don't attack me yet?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Hydra is going to attack.
Well, you know, 3 CCs are good later. In double eBay is good later.
Later.
And
eventually.
Hydra seems to be really not interested in later. He seems to be interested in sort of now, I feel.
Yeah, Hydra's the guy that says, "Oh, I got a bonus paycheck. Let's go to Vegas, not let's put it into a trust fund." aLive is the trust fund guy, and aLive is about to get a very, very rude awakening when he ends up seeing, oh, there's roaches coming out. Why are there roaches? Wait a second. Oh dear lord, I've made a terrible mistake. And he is just building the supply depot while he's building the extra bunkers. He is not down and out of this just yet, but god, this is going to be a very difficult hold. He's quite literally trying to defend this off of one barracks with a reactor's worth of units.
He's gonna have a bunker for every Marine that he has out on the field. Like, that's what's gonna happen. Yeah, and there we go. We have 3 more bunkers coming in. He's realizing the severity of what's happening here, even sending out the SCV to make sure he knows what's happening, and loading up just in time. We have the repair. Oh, a little bit late there, getting body blocked a bit by the SCVs there. Weren't able to get through, but he is attacking with the SCVs. Interesting move there. He's running through. He's got all these bunkers up. A lot of damage getting dealt. And is this is the hold? I think.
I think he's holding. I really did not like.
Wow.
I really did not like the fact that Hydra stuck around by those bunkers. I really would have liked to have, in my imagination of how I thought this would go. In my mind, he breaks through the bunkers and he goes straight to the back where the mineral line is and forces the Marines to exit the bunkers if he wants to continue mining at that natural. And here's the thing, like that was actually, I don't believe, even with the droning up behind this, I think that aLive is still ahead because there was a huge investment in the delaying of tech from Hydra. He delayed, a lot of his gas mining and actually invested a lot of gas into those roaches. And at the same time, aLive is just better prepared for the late game. He's already finished up 1-1 upgrades. He's got 3CC finished up. He's starting to get his production ramped up. And during that attack, he saw the attack coming in and he said, oh, well, let me just go ahead and build tech labs on these 2 barracks. I'm not going to build Marines out of them. No, I'm just going to build tech labs on these 2 barracks. He is so unbelievably well prepared for the later stages of the game that I kind of feel like aLive's ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes things are intuitive and sometimes they're non-intuitive. And this, I believe, would be in the non-intuitive category. A player goes fast 3cc off 1 barracks with the reactor into double eBay and holds a 2-base Sergolin. It's just excellently done by aLive here. Do keep in mind that behind that route, Hydra was droning up pretty heavily. He is ahead in economy. He was able to get his layer up too, as well.
He's got a lot of banelings. Has an opportunity.
Almost finishing up. He just needs a few seconds here before the engagement. It looks like he's going to take it. He's on creep. Oh, nice little block.
That's a decent wraparound.
Yeah, he gets some good hits here. He's going to clean this up. Nicely done by Hydra here. And his centrifugal hooks and 1-1 is going to finish now.
Okay, I've got to say Hydra definitely took a very good engagement there. And I'm a little bit worried about aLive in terms of the counterattack potential. But I will note that a lot of gas was just spent on those banelings that normally would have been spent on the Mutalisk that Hydra was trying to tech up into. So even though aLive looks like he's in a really awkward position, in a sense, forcing out all of those banelings has delayed the Mutalisk from coming out. But at the same time, I will say also that behind all this, Hydra is looking really, really solid in terms of like having his 2-2 started around the same time that aLive has started his 2-2, despite the fact that aLive had such a ridiculous lead on those upgrades initially. And I'm actually starting to like Hydra's position a lot better now.
Oh yeah, well the thing is, he got that fast 1-1 and then couldn't follow it up with a fast 2-2, so the 2-2 ends up coming down at about the same time as a normal 2-2 timing would, and he didn't really get to make all that much use of his 1-1 because the attack tap on the 1-1 wasn't finished, so all of that investment, as cool as it was, didn't actually pay off for him.
Yeah, and now the double medevac drops on the left and on the right-hand side are trying to get some damage done, but not quite able to find a whole lot. And now that the Mutalisks are out, this is where it starts to get very difficult to make that damage happen, but he's still finding little windows of opportunities. He has that drop on the right-hand side of the map that's still doing some damage. The drop on the left is going to get chased away by some of the Mutalisks, but drops out those Marines, might be able to kill off a Mutalisk or 2 over here.
Yeah, it looks like he gets at least one, second one there. Turns out Marines are pretty awesome. And going ahead and take out some of those. Gonna wait for the Roaches. The Roaches come in, and he's gonna try to chase his way. He does have a bit of boost, but that should be cleaned up. But in the meantime, he's just back and forth, dropping both of these locations. And not only is he buying himself damage, he's buying himself time here.
Doesn't get the last Muta. The last Muta sitting at 5 hit points. But as you were saying, yeah, he's buying himself time to try and get up that army supply once again. He's still sitting down a bit in supply, but it's mostly in worker supply, and behind this, he's already got up that 3rd command center mining. I'm a little bit concerned by the fact that, Hydra does have the 4th hatchery starting to mine now, so maybe aLive is not feeling super duper confident in his situation, but he's got to be super careful about these Mutals. Oh no, aLive, he's not reacting. He loses a lot of his SCVs in the process of those Mutals coming in.
Yep, he loses 4 SCVs there, and keeping in mind that Hydra's done really well to keep the drone count up. He's got 10 more drones coming in as well, though he lost a bunch to harassment just now, up to 14. 3 bases of economy pretty much defended here so far from aLive. If he can hold on, I say that, and there are no turrets anywhere. Is there even a single turret that's been built?
No, but he does have double engineering bays. I know that, Jack Attack. He has the capability of building them. He just opted not to build them. Still opting not to. And I guess at this point, this is the point where normally you have the Widow Mines and the Marines to try and deal with these Mules. But unfortunately, he just had... Oh, okay. Well, he's starting to get some of the damage done on these Mules. Wow, killing off so many of them, considering how low number they were.
Yep. A little bit of a trade-off here. You know, he lost a lot of...
Ooh. Oh, dropping the main base. Dropping the main base of Hydra as he's getting some nice damage done over there, but unfortunately Zerglings just start to overwhelm him a little bit. Isn't quite able to get that full kind of walled off position that I think he really wanted. He's going to be able to heal up and maybe go back in for a round 2.
Ooh, and we have the kill switch has been engaged. All of the forces of aLive now moving across the map. This is the main engagement. He's going to take it full out on creep. He's getting himself set up. He's going to have really, really good splits here. Lots of banelings coming in. 22, and oh, look at this surround.
Oh, man.
Have to be amazing here. Widow Mine hits go off, but I don't think it's enough. It looks like all of the forces of aLive have been destroyed.
Wow.
In one swift attack. He took it on creep. And it was a really big open area. The surround was able to get off by Hydra, and Hydra has turned and is pushing through into his enemy for everything that he has.
Oh my god. And so many of the medevacs end up falling over there, and I know that this is already a situation where it looks like Hydra is going to be able to push on in and, quite frankly, take out the 3rd expansion, take out the natural expansion, just push in for a victory, but killing things like the medevacs is such an important thing in making sure your opponent cannot bring themselves back into the game, because if they don't have medevacs, suddenly a Terran player with no medevacs does not have the opportunity to put on the counter harassment. They don't have the opportunity to bring themselves back in the game. You're cutting off the tools that they have to deal the counter pressure. And now we end up seeing double the supply for Hydra, and guess how many medevacs are out? 2. There's 2 medevacs out.
Yeah, and he manages to save his 3rd base. But the main's pretty much mined out. And that's kind of the big deal here as far as the incomes go. You know, it's almost, well, it's actually more than double in gas and almost double in minerals for the income. And with Root Hydra being ahead, he's just going to be able to keep attacking over and over again. It doesn't really matter if he loses all of these links. It doesn't matter if he loses everything else. That's it. Hydra, again, pulling it back to an even score. We're going to Game 7.
Oh, Jack Attack, it's the Team Gravity Fight Night curse. The series cannot end. We cannot end a Team Gravity Fight Night without at least having one of our series go to the ace match. At least one of them.
And what a series to be the one to go to the ace match. Tons of fantastic games tonight. The final map is going to be that fantastic map of moons and madness.
Oh, you know what I love about these kind of situations? You know what I love about best of 7s going to the ace match? Is that the last map is the map. It's like the reject map. Nobody wanted it because nobody decided to pick it at any point. It's like the least liked map of all of them for them. And that's also funny because I love this map.
You know, you're just like, oh, pick you, and oh, it's just you get picked. I guess you go on the other team. Like that, you know, it's the last kid at gym class picked for kickball. Moonlight Madness.
Oh,
you know,
guys.
we feel for you, man. We think you're a cool map.
Oh.
All right, even if Hydra and aLive don't like you.
I love this map. This map is great. But I think that honestly, if I had to say who I felt like would probably be happier with the choice, I kind of want to just say aLive, and that goes back to Jack Attack. Jack Attack. Let's talk about 3rd expansions. 3rd expansions on this map.
Third base.
And the vulnerability of wherever a Zerg decides to take about a 3rd expansion, because either they are saying, I'm going to have, anytime I try and move between my natural expansion and my 3rd expansion, just be a complete limbo line of units trying to move up and down ramps that are very narrow, or you take not that low ground 3rd expansion where Terran players are constantly easily dropping and causing all sorts of havoc for you by the destructible rocks, and you take the further away 3rd expansion. Now you're just like, well, now I have a super far away 3rd expansion, so awesome, that's great. I feel great about that, and my ability to defend against Hellbats and Banshees and Widow Mines and all the other shenanigans that Terran players can throw at me. It's such a frustrating map to play against Terran on, I feel. Like, it just across the board. I think Protoss feel this way. I think Zerg feel this way. And honestly, from what I've seen Terran players that feel this way against other Terran players.
Yeah, it's a super wild map with, you know, it's just really outside the box with that third base that's like a backdoor third, but kind of and not really. It's, you know, not a lot of people are doing it, but technically you could do something where you sort of wall in your main, take that as the natural, and then just start moving in that direction as far as taking your bases and marching basically toward the more usual expansion pattern for your
Almost
opponent.
like Bridgehead, right? Almost like how some people are treating Bridgehead, where you, as you were saying, you wall off your normal ramp and you just go the other way with the destructible rocks. I think the one thing I would be hesitant about with that is that your third expansion would be even further off if you decided to do that, because you'd have to go to knock down the destructible rocks and then like walk a very long distance off from that location to your next expansion.
Yeah,
I feel like it'd be a very far distance.
Yeah, it would have to be some pretty strange stuff, I think, for that to happen.
Maybe, you know what? Actually, I wonder. The situation I'm thinking about that in is a PVZ with a Protoss player that opens with double Stargate, and that ends up being actually pretty short distances. And even that third expansion, you can actually end up walling off with like cannons on the high ground with, you know, it's like a ramp that you walk up to. You could actually wall that off and cannon it up and just have a ton of Stargate units that are able to try and get up that defense, and they're easily able to maneuver across all three bases. I think that could actually work, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
The air distances between those three bases is the main, natural, and third that we were talking about right now is pretty close. So
yeah.
But we need speculate no longer. The map is beginning to load. We're going to find out who wins $150 tonight in the Tournament of Champions on Team Gravity's Fight Night. The map is Moonlight Madness, and we are loading in right now. Spawning in the top right of Moonlight Madness, we've got the purple Zerg. Representing Team Root, it's Hydra.
And in the bottom left, we have the red Terran player representing Team Spinu, and has been able to bring it so close to victory, but is just one game shy, both from victory and defeat. It is aLive.
Man,
You know, history would
what a
tell
crazy
us.
series this has been.
History in this series would tell us that aLive will win the next game. And if they were to play a best of 9, Hydra would win game number 8.
Hydra, and I wonder, you know, obviously as a professional gamer, you don't want to think about that. You don't want to think about the patterns that are going against you because they're outside the game.
Yeah.
You know, you want to, like a lot of tennis players will say, it's like you have to play each point, 1 point at a time, and don't be thinking about, you know, the context kind of a thing. And it's a really difficult thing to do, but thinking about it from Root Hydra's perspective, how difficult is that going to be to not say, oh man, this is the part where aLive wins the game. This happens every time. Why does it keep happening to me, you know? But hopefully he's got that ironclad mentality protecting him from such evil thoughts. He's taking a quick expansion here, and so far nothing super out of the ordinary, it seems, for either player.
Yeah, we have a pretty early gas guides down for aLive, and could be opening up with, the Reaper opening that is going to allow him to put on little bits and pieces of pressure. This is actually a really nice map for the Reaper, just because you can hop down and do some kind of nice juking and jiving at the natural expansion to the main, and you can also do it on the other side of the base. So that main base the Reaper just has a lot more area that they can move up and down cliffs to escape. They just have more escape paths, and it becomes harder for the Zergans and the Queens to zone out that Reaper. So I kind of like the opening from aLive. Just go for the Reaper opening in this situation. Throwing down the immediate reactor and the CC.
But will he throw down a third CC next? That is the question.
I want to say no, because I really do think that 3cc very fast build was something that was done because it was a 4-player map, and yeah, we are going to be seeing the factory plop down, at least before third CC, maybe an eventual third CC, but not yet. At least.
At least. The eventual third CC, hopefully that is what we see. And I think that that's one of those things, right, where almost always on a Game 7, you see a pretty safe play and long macro because it all rides on this, and you've been playing for so long, and you don't want to have come this far and fail. There are some people who, you know, have testicles of steel and will just, you know, two-gate you on
not
the
everyone can be MC.
But, you know, yeah, not everyone can play like Naniwa MC. And most of the time you do see nice, long, drawn-out macro games with lots of action all over the place in between.
Most definitely, and we might be seeing a little bit more action in this game, as we do have the Starport follow-up, the 1-1-1 opening, no third CC on the way, and I kind of like this kind of aggression. Oh, whoa, we got a siege tank being... We got a tech lab on the factory and a siege tank being made with a Starport finishing up. Did aLive get hit a little bit too hard with some of those banelings in that last game? Is he about to think like, oh, well, I can lift up a siege tank like Legacy of the Void when it's sieged up and put on my medevac siege tank aggression? Like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah, this is pretty intense here, and it does get scouted by Hydra. He's been peeking in and out, making sure he knows what's going on. And you see a tech lab in this situation, I think a lot of times you're going to think, oh, maybe this is potentially, you know, some Banshee harass opening or something like that. Siege tank, not quite as common.
I think it's going to be a big 2-base push off of like a couple of those siege tanks, and he's going to probably get out some of the medevacs now and everything, but I think he's going to have like somewhere between 3 to 4 siege tanks, a small bioforce, and actually, you know, I like the fact that our observer beast is showing us like kind of that high ground where you can drop siege tanks. It's a little bit of a quirky part about this map that doesn't oftentimes get utilized, but you can drop siege tanks up on that high ground, and I think you will be in range of the gas geyser of your opponent, as well as, you know, potential low ground third if they decide to take that.
And
wow,
actually already preparing
Hydra.
for that is Hydra.
Oh, Hydra is so on top of this.
By the way, that's even buildable terrain. You can actually build things on that little island. It's pretty wild.
It is quite fantastic. You might say that it leads to some madness in the moonlight.
Oh my god. We've reached the late hour of the cast in Game 7. The caster jokes are coming out. Be warned.
I mean, I've been casting for 7.5 hours, so...
Seriously, man. Many of the respects to Robbie. All right.
4 more hours to go. All right, well... Medevacs are going to be dropping the units over on the high ground, and there goes down Siege Tank 1 and 2, and they're outside of the range of the Spine Crawler. So very well positioned. The Spine Crawler ends up having to burrow back, and the Siege Tanks say, well, if you're going to move back, then I'm going to move forward. Siege Tank sieging in range of that Spine Crawler. Spine Crawler's just like, I just burrowed here, leave me alone.
And we even got a missile turret. We've got a hard...
Wow.
It's not a hard contain, it's like a hard taking of a position. Over here, he's even building a missile turret. Who knows? Left some bunkers up next, and he's gonna help him defend against the Mutalisks. And wow, another bunker. Man, you know, oversee. No one can scout
he
this.
He just supply blocked him. There are 5 overlords on the way because he just got supply blocked.
All right, he's sending the mutas across the map now, and plenty of Vikings are there to greet.
A lot of Vikings. The missile turrets are not done just yet, though. So
You'll
you
get
could still
some
end up taking
damage.
some SCV losses. Already killing off 2 of the Mutalisks, though. And the missile turret does finally finish up. Honestly, I think pretty decent trade over here for aLive. aLive is okay with trading these Vikings, I think, from Mutalisks.
Yeah, it's a pretty good position, I think, for aLive doing that. As long
this
as
is
and the
ridiculous.
spine crawler rush is coming in, and actually I think that one in the
I
bottom
think
is
one of them
actually-
is still in range.
Yeah, it is in range. Miscounted the range there, so he's gonna have to deal with that. He's got those couple of the other thing, killing off those missile turrets helps a lot too. I think
Oh,
finally
yeah.
this position
I
is
don't think there's...
open.
I think that he's gonna be able to take out the siege tank. The problem is now going to be like, how do you get the Marines out of there? And honestly, okay, let's say there were 3 missile turrets built. I'm going to argue that that wasn't actually that big of an investment for aLive at this stage in the game. Like, it kind of was a little bit of an investment, but at the end of the day, for how much he's forced out of Hydra, this has been an unbelievable amount of cost effectiveness.
Absolutely. In the meantime, however, Hydra has managed to crank out 70 drones. So he's in a really good position economically. He's getting that count up. He will someday finally clean up this attack, no matter how much creep and spine crawlers need to be built. It will someday happen. He's going to eventually make that move in and try to finish it off. But we do have, now that those drone counts are nice and healthy, tons of Zerglings coming out and Mutalisks with all of that gas. So we are getting into this strong moment in time. aLive finally taking a 3rd base here. As long as he can get this up and secure it pretty well. He's got 2 turrets already. As far as mutas on the map go, we only have 9, so that should do very well to defend him. And he's got those
Oh my god.
fleet of Vikings
Viking
out. That's
clouds.
quite a few.
A very different approach to dealing with the Mutalisks. Oftentimes you'll end up having turn players that say, oh, well, I'll have some Vikings available to help deal with Mutalisks as like a precautionary, or not even precautionary, like an emergency measure, but this is like his main measure of dealing with the Mutalisks. Oh my god. This is his main measure of killing off all of the Overlords. How supply block is Hydra about to get right now? He's gonna lose like 7 Overlords.
This is a critical mistake, just putting
Oh my
those
god.
Overlords in a vulnerable area, and he just killed
Oh my god.
so many Overlords. But Hydra can't build anything else. This is all he's got for a ridiculously long amount of time. Really nice surround, excellent positioning. Will it be enough to save the Baneling's nest going through? The tanks cutting down. Root Hydra is now unsupply blocked, and the Thor's going down as well. Really nice defense there from Hydra.
You Marines in the main still doing a little bit of damage, and yes, Hydra does manage to defend a little bit longer, but oh my god, the Vikings are still alive, and they're killing off
Door is
mules
open!
that come too close. Oh my god.
Oh my god,
Zergling's
the door is
gonna use some
open.
counter
Zergling's got invited in for tea, and guess what? A couple of Banelings off to the side as well. Tons of workers being killed in the meantime, and the Vikings are still going at it. Oh my god, this is
supply
absolutely nuts.
blocks.
2 really critical
I
Banelings
want to
over
look.
here.
I want to look at the supply, like time supply block at the end of this game, just because it will be unabashedly higher than I think some Platinum and Diamond League players are in their games. Oh my god.
Wow.
There's gonna be some player that's like, in this game, Hydra the supply block longer than I am on my average game.
Oh man, that was absolutely crazy. He's going to double Thor production right now as the Zerg player moves up to Hive, keeping that drone count nice and high and going for this base. I love this 4th base over here, by the way. It's this interesting sort of pocket base. It's got this tiny ramp that you can sort of block off and choke off your opponents in. Or if they go all the way in to kill you, you can say, oh, well, yeah, sure, you killed me. That's great. But you're not getting out.
trapped.
And I'm going to, kill all of your army, and we're going to make a trade out of this. You're not going to be able to just come in, kill it, bounce.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting kind of expansion, but now we end up seeing aLive. He's got the Thors mixed in. He's really transitioned into that mech army. Now, he's lost a lot of the Vikings, but, I mean, with so many Thors, does he even really need them to deal with the Mutalisks? And in fact, what exactly does Hydra have available to deal with this army? He's making a lot of roaches right now, but his army supply is basically 20-ish Zerglings and a Mutalisk. That is his army supply right now.
Oh, this is really scary push here coming in from aLive. Those Thors, they deal tons of damage in the air, tons on the ground as well. Lots of everything coming through, and it's flat damage, so it just does absolutely insane. The single siege tank is gonna help, but these Hellbats are getting chewed through pretty quickly. Bane's coming in, all being used against Thors. Oh, that is not what you want to happen. Oh man. He should be able to come in and be able to clean this up to some extent.
Eventually.
God, he doesn't even. Wow.
So much.
Oh, you know
and
what
behind
it is?
this. Oh
He's
God.
been doing melee. He's been doing melee upgrades. These roaches are 0-1 roaches against 2-1 Thors. Really scary situation here.
And the Hellions at the 4th expansion have just cleaned up every single drone over there. Just not even going to acknowledge that the Queen exists and says, nope. All we had to do was kill off the drones. Queen doesn't really matter. And they just leave and say, well, the damage was done. And yes, the damage has been done. Hydra still has a decent drone count, but just losing so much of that army, so much of the tech has been neglected by Hydra. Going for the hive tech does have that, but I mean, nothing but roaches are being made. There's no infestors being made. There's no vipers being made. It's just roaches, and I don't know if they're going to be enough.
Yep, and as soon as that next group of workers goes over to transfer, he's got 2 more Hellbats to deal. And nothing but a queen, a couple of roaches here. Should finally be able to clean it up. Thank God they were hatching from that particular hatchery at that time. We do have a push coming in from a little bit of roaches, but it's not particularly scary for aLive.
These
That's not something
Hellbats.
you're too afraid of.
These Hellbats at the natural expansion again. Now we got 4 of them just dealing massive amounts of damage. And the Medivacs so low on health, but they managed to escape. Just barely. The Queens are out for blood, looking for the opportunity to try and pick off those Medivacs, but they're just going to sit there very, very patiently saying, well, you don't have any Mutals. What are you going to do about it? Pull me in with the Viper? Is that even going to be worth the energy to pick off that one Medivac? Oh, I don't even know.
Well, even if you pull it in with a Viper, I mean, the only thing you have to shoot up right now is Queens. There's no Hydra den out. There's no Hydras out at all. We've got an infestation pit, so he could build some infested Terrans, but he's going Ultras now. It's all ground, all day, all the time. For the time being, and he's aLive's getting a planetary fortress up in this nice forward position. We can just plop his mech army and say, you can't attack these 2 besties.
Am I going crazy? Is that 4th expansion 1 hex off? Is it 1 hex too far to the right?
1 hex too far to the right. Yes, I think that it is. And it's a planetary fortress, so you can't lift it and move it.
I know. I was just like, you're stuck with it now.
Sure.
This is a great way to make use of extra workers. Just make them work a little bit harder for it.
And it puts him in a nice position to push against the 4th base of Hydra here, especially as the mech player. You want that short push distance. Oh my God, this is insane. The siege mode is not up, but when it is, this is going to be absolutely brutalizing. Staying out of the range of the siege tanks as much as possible. He's doing what he can to buy time until the Ultralists come up, running into that little choke point there and trying to use that bit of terrain to help him out for the time being. But this is just this slow, methodical, crushing attack.
The Vipers have already been picked off by these Vikings, and now we end up seeing the Ultralists, the last remaining hope potentially for Hydra to bring this game back. I mean, aLive just seems to be winning every other game, and it looks like he's gonna be able to win it one more time for the victory, staying ahead the entire series. aLive takes the Tournament of Champions 4-3 in the grand finals.
What a series, man. That last game was nuts. The series was awesome. You know, shout out to both players for being awesome and kicking lots of rear end, as it were, throughout the course of that. We had long games, we had short games, we had cheese, we had back and forth. You can't really ask too much more. We had mech, we had bio. I mean, we had a little bit of everything here. It was just a great series.
Seriously, we got 3 different matchups. One of them was even a mirror matchup, and the other 2 were not mirror matchup. Like, it was just really, really cool. to see all of the games that ended up surfacing out, and really just a ton of fun casting Team Gravity Fight Night here, guys. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you to everyone that decided to participate in Hitbox, decided to vote in all the polls, that decided to check out any of the sponsors that we have, and of course to all of the players that decided to give us such fantastic games today. Big shout outs go to Stardust, as well as Fantasy, Hydra, and aLive. I tried to get that in the order of like players that we saw earlier on to the players that we just saw, and the, I guess, the order of like third, fourth place to second and first place. Big congratulations goes out to all the people who all walk away with at least a little bit of money, a little bit to go toward their barcode accounts in Legacy of the Void. But
yeah,
you know,
and
Jack
quick
Tech,
shout out to G Huntley, who has just subscribed. If you haven't subscribed,
oh my god,
G2A is gonna hook you up with a $5 off. So shout out to them. Don't forget about Spawning Tool because they're awesome as well. Analytics, learning build orders, it's fantastic. Get on top of that stuff. Hitbox is our main sponsor for the night. Team Gravity is making it happen for all of us. Beast is on the production. Ravi is just making things awesome with his voice. My name is Jack Attack, and OFU is also another spot. There are so many awesome things happening that it's actually difficult to remember all of them. And lastly of all, I can't handle the awesome. It's too good.
what's happening? It's too
But,
many, too much awesome.
Too much awesome.
Oh.
But thank you everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us and having a great Team Gravity Fight Night. We are on next Sunday, I believe, would be the next Team Gravity Fight Night.
Every week, man. Every week there's some more Team Gravity Fight Night for you guys. It's a very reliable place, and you know what? One of the easiest ways to remember that, because you know what? I'm with you guys. I'm terrible at remembering to chrono boost and do larva injects and all of that kind of stuff. I suck at that. You know what you can do? You know what your auto inject ability is go ahead and follow Team Gravity over here on Hitbox.tv so that you guys get the email notifications about when we go live with Team Gravity Fight Night, either tournament champions or just the regular show matches that come out. That oftentimes, you know, the show matches will feature some more of like the up-and-coming NA players or European players, if that's sort of more into your scene, and you just decided to tune in because you guys knew that today was going to be an awesome series versus Koreans.
And that it was. And that's
Big shout out to Spawning Tool. I think Spawning Tool, the one other sponsor that we haven't mentioned, they're amazing. Thank you guys so much for providing all the awesome facts. And of course, you guys can check out Spawning Tool. It's a great tool for just people who play StarCraft, as well as the people who watch it. And Jack Attack, where can people catch you at?
You can find me at Jack Attack TV. So that's Facebook.com/Jack Attack TV, Twitter.com/Jack Attack TV. Twitch, Jack Attack TV. I have a Bandcamp. Guess what? It's Jack Attack TV. I do music. I do other things like that. I stream Jack Attack TV on Twitch, and you know.
Oh, what's your Zanga actually? Your Zanga?
My Zanga, obviously Jack Attack TV. You know, my blogger,
The
Jack
bank
Attack
account
TV,
information.
Jack Attack TV.
Bank account
Actually, all my
username, Jack Attack
passwords,
TV.
all my passwords. are
Jack Attack TV.
If you ever want to hack me,
So perfect.
just go ahead and Jack Attack TV it up, and
But
you
don't
can have
tell
all my
anyone.
personal information. My social security number also, Jack Attack TV.
Jack
Haven't
Attack
changed.
TV. Oh, that's fantastic.
And how about you, Ravi?
Oh.
What have you been up? I hear your voice everywhere in StarCraft. Tell me about all the awesome things that you're doing recently. You're working like a nut.
Oh man, well I have been surprisingly less busy than I want to be until today. So I've been doing a lot of different things between like high yield podcasts and submitting images of useless things onto Reddit and all kinds of other fun stuff. But really, what I really care about is casting and watching and talking about StarCraft, and that you can always follow me over at twitch.tv/FearDragon64, youtube.com/FearDragon64, twitter.com/FearDragon64, everything at FearDragon64. My passwords are not FearDragon64. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder on me than Jack Attack. I'm sorry. I know that people tell me I should just have singular branding across everything, but I didn't include that with my passwords. It's my mistake, Jack Attack. It's my mistake.
Sorry, better be corrected
but
next
yeah.
time we speak.
Of course. And big shout out one more time to the hidden observer who has been doing all of the fantastic production today, and that is Beast SC2. He not only does all the observing for Team Gravity Fight Night today, but also is one of the key critical components of making Team Gravity happen, because he quite literally runs Team Gravity, the team. So big shout out to Beast. He's an amazing guy, and I love Martin. Super duper awesome. But I think that is pretty much it for the day, man. I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah, man, it's been good casting with you, as always.
It has been a pleasure to cast with you. One final note is I think that I'm casting something in an hour on ESL SC2B stream with Drenok. It's going to be Legacy of the Void, so if you want to tune in for that, check that out.
Nice.
Probably best way to find it is just go to the Team Liquid calendar. Just go to the Team Liquid calendar and you'll find the stream. And you'll get to watch me descent into madness, because I've now been casting for 8 hours. And I'm going to cast for another 4, probably, or something. So
That's real.
hopefully I'll
actual
see you guys
passion.
there. And then I do NA Ladder Heroes tomorrow, and the monthly finals, the Tempo, so look forward to that. But thank you all so much for tuning in for Team Gravity Fight Night Tournament of Champions. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast as much as I know Jack Attack and I did, and I hope you guys decide to tune in next week for another exciting episode of Team Gravity Fight Night.